So, hello all, hope you all are doing great. Welcome to KCD Colombia and welcome wholeheartedly to my talk, Strengthening Kubernetes Cluster Security with m9sweeper. Today, we'll take a solid city tour into the world of security in Kubernetes and learn how to ensure that our Kubernetes clusters remain safe and protected. Okay, so a formal introduction about myself. I'm Koti Velanki. I'm working as a DevOps engineer at Adobe through UST, and I'm open source contributor to m9sweeper. And I'm a learner, speaker, Azure Cloud, Google Cloud Meetup organizer, and a volunteer. So I'll be active on LinkedIn. So there is my profile, and I'm also running my YouTube channel called NoMem, and this is my email. You can reach out to me in these social handles. Okay, a simple agenda, not no big stuff. I'll not no make you bored with no lot of content. It's a simple agenda. We'll understand Kubernetes security, and then we'll see the Kubernetes problem, and then we'll see what are the popular tools in this particular ecosystem, and then finally we'll see how to secure Kubernetes cluster with m9sweeper. That's it. No big deal. So Kubernetes security, right? Security is like protective shield. Like when you say security, it has to shield our entire ecosystem, right? So it needs to keep our valuable assets, information safe from any sort of attacks or something like that. So in the context of Kubernetes clusters, again, it has to do the same duty. Security becomes even more crucial in terms of Kubernetes. Why? Because it is involved with lot of data, and the data related to applications, users, infrastructure, and whatnot. Entire name and fame of the organization, is sitting on our Kubernetes cluster these days. So that is why Kubernetes security is that much important. So you can say okay, Kubernetes security is important, but what is the problem here, right? So we engineers love to solve problems like now, but what are the problems we need to solve, right? So we are telling Kubernetes cluster is securing our Kubernetes cluster is that much important. So important things will come with a lot of responsibility. So now our problem is like securing Kubernetes cluster. You may ask okay, Koti, you're telling like this is a problem, but how big this problem is, right? So if you see, I have collected some statistics from very popular reports. So these are the public details, right? Like approximately 60% of Kubernetes clusters, which security incidents, which are happening just because of misconfigured deployments. So if you have put some more care there, it would have been better, right? So over 70% of container images which are there outside world, so they are having at least one known vulnerability. So it can be easily exploitable, right? So just imagine if you put some more care there. So how our digital world would should be, and similarly, like around less than 30% of Kubernetes clusters which are running out, so which are having basic CAS benchmark test. It's not even pro level, just a basic test it is passing. And if you see, these are the statistics, like we can understand that it is not a simple thing, right? It is a huge issue. So okay, now we agree that it's a serious problem, but what is the solution, right? So when I had the same question, I like everyone, I just googled a lot, like okay, what I need to do, like what are the solutions which are available, is it readily available, or I need to build my own solution from the scratch. I did a lot of research, and finally like I came to know about these particular resources. I'll be sharing these slides, you can go through them. These are the popular links found on Google. So they are all are telling like these are the popular security tools for Kubernetes cluster. Then I felt like okay, so I'm trying to solve one problem, but in that journey I found not a solutions. How many solutions? If you remember the previous slide, so for this particular problem, every statistic I got is a problem. So Kubernetes misconfigured deployments is one problem. For that, we have a solution called kubesec. And imagine scanning is a big problem. For that, we have a solution called reveal. And CS benchmarks is a problem. For that, we have a solution. So like that, I figured out 6 different problems, and I realized that, okay, there are 6 different problems and there are 6 different solutions, like I shown you here. So these are the public Kubernetes securities which are solving this problem. Then I'm in dilemma that, okay, so now I completely lost when I got this conclusion, right? How can I manage these many tools? Like if you have a technology stack, for example, you are a full stack developer or a DevOps engineer, you'll be already loaded with lot of tools. And when you talk about security, these many tools are getting added to their existing stack. So it will be very much problematic, I thought. But keep that problem aside for now. And first, let's understand what these tools are about. Okay, once we understand these tools, we'll see what best solution we get, right? So with that, I'll just walk you through all these popular tools. You may think like, okay, these are the tools which now standard things, and these are the we are trying to solve problem. Don't think it's a Kubernetes security problem. For now, today, for this talk, understand this with our dance party example. So in Colombia, we know like if weekend comes, then will be a lot of dance parties and all stuff. So it is very famous for that. So let's just try to understand our problem with this dance party example, and we'll understand what is the purpose of these tools. Then together we put these all tools and we'll find one solution. Okay, that is the goal. It's just a simple thing, right? So first comes the gatekeeper, right? When you say gatekeeper, so it is in simple terms, it's like a bouncer to our dance party, right? What is the duty of that bouncer? When some visitors are coming into the party, they need to enforce some rules and regulations, like who is allowed to enter into the party, who is not allowed, who is have the access, that kind of duty that bouncer will do. Similarly, gatekeeper also works for our clusters, right? It is an admission control. So it will create some policies, and it will enforce that everybody, each and every resource is abiding that policy. For example, if you want to create a pod with labels, so you can create a rule saying that, okay, whenever a new pod is getting created in our cluster, I have a rule that it need labels, right? When somebody trying to create a pod without label, it will stop then and there itself. So that is kind of tool it is, right? So next comes the kubesec. Kubesec is kind of like bodyguard for a dance party. So how bodyguards will work at the party, right? So whenever somebody is trying to enter into the party, right, they'll protect very well-mannered way, right? So similarly, kubesec also well protected. It will just read your YAML file before you deploy your resources into the cluster. You can just directly scan your YAML file, and then you can get the report. It will give you a detailed score. Okay, for this configure YAML which you have provided, these are the pluses and minuses. So you need to double check on that, right? Or else once you deploy your pods and your pods are running on the cluster, then you can filter based on the namespaces and you can get the results. So both the way it will work. So kubesec is that kind of tool, right? So next comes the kube hunter. Kube hunter is kind of curious explorer of the party. So when you got one particular audience, so in every party you will get these kind of people, right? So they don't know anything, but they wanted to know each and everything. They'll walk around each and every minute place, right? They'll try to find the weaknesses and what are the minuses we have here, and they'll once they get that weakness of a party, they'll try to explore, right? So similar way, kube hunter also work. So kube hunter is like, it's on complete mission to find the vulnerabilities and weaknesses in our cluster. Whenever it find any weakness, right, it acts in, we can also say it is an ethical hacker in our environment. So they'll find the vulnerabilities and they'll exploit before somebody from the outside get exploited, and they'll try to find the best solution for that. So like that, it will work. And then Kubebench, like we talked about, right? Only less than 30% of the clusters which are running are following this CIS benchmarks. But these are very important. How can you ensure that, right? When you use Kubebench in your cluster, it will make sure that, hey, this particular deployment or this particular pod is not abiding the security CIS benchmarks. You need to work on it. Those kind of triggers will be generated by this Kubebench, right? So next thing will be Project Falco. Falco is kind of a vigilant security guard at our party. So when you put a security guard at our party, how what he'll do? He'll just monitor each and everything, like what is going wrong, where it is, like is there any abnormal activities happening in the party, or everybody is feeling safe or not. So those kind of stuff, how we'll manage, Falco will work exactly the same way. So it will just you can say watchful world in our cluster, right? So that is about Project Falco. Uh, Basically it do all the threat detection in terms of containers, pods, everything. It will all the minute details which you never thought of, it will catch, and it will give alert that, okay, hey, admin, something is happening in the cluster, you may have a look into it. That kind of minor alerts also it will trigger. So finally, the Trivi. Trivi is kind of, police officer, I can say. So once you have the police officer near to our event and all, right, they'll inspect what is happening, is everything is fine. So the similar way, Trivi will inspect each and every container which is running on a cluster, and it will generate very wonderful reports like, okay, this particular tool or this particular container is having this much of vulnerability and all this. So these are all right. There is a lot of tools, like we have figured out only few, and lot of new tools are coming in. Now you may be thinking like, okay, what is this, right? Poti first said like we have only one simple problem securing a Kubernetes cluster, and then he said like, okay, no, it's a serious problem, he said. And then he is telling like, there are for the problem, it's not one solution, there are a lot of solutions, you may think, right? So there is a twist. I'm telling you, there is a twist. There are 6 problems, 6 solutions, and we may need 6 tools. You are guessing it, right? These are not more 6 different tools. The all 6 different tools put together, and we harvest, we put all our intelligence efforts, everything into a form of one particular tool called m9sweeper, right? It's just not a single tool. It's a mix of all these 6 tools. You can ask me like, is it for real, right? So with that, I'll just show you a simple demo of m9sweeper, right? So whatever the tools which we talked about, as soon as you get into our m9sweeper, right? So again, that I just wanted to address that m9sweeper is an open source tool, and we are getting a lot of good contributions from GitHub and all. It's a everything, each and every line of code is available openly for in GitHub. It's an open source tool. So I'll just walk you through m9sweeper and its capabilities, right? So like I said, so as soon as you logged in, it's a multi-cluster tool, and you can create multiple groups for multiple purposes. For example, I'm working in a MNC. There we have a different environments. For example, I have an environment for dev, I have an environment for QE, I have an environment for stage, I have an environment for fraud. So in that case, like I wanted to make all the clusters related to dev at one place, all the cluster related to prod in different group. How can I do that, right? So here you can create a cluster group by clicking on this add cluster group, and that you can add this. For now, I have created only one cluster, which is m9sweeper dev. So in that I have a cluster. So in the same group, if I want to add one more cluster, I can do that. So by clicking on add clusters. So here it's a simple thing. So it need only prerequisite as a Helm. So once you have Helm package manager with your Kubernetes cluster, it just cakewalk. You'll never believe, like you'll never imagine it's that easy, right? So if you want to add a cluster, so you can provide a name here, and then if you have a kubeconfig downloaded, you can directly upload that kubeconfig file by selecting here. So by clicking on select kubeconfig file. If not, you can install manually by providing host name and port. Okay, that's a simple thing. And then when you click on next, the cluster will get added just like this. So once the cluster got added in the form of new card, so when you click on that, this will be the main landing page you'll see, right? So it is just an overview of your cluster. So total how many images are running, what are the vulnerabilities detected for the running images, how many policy violations. We have talked about gatekeeper, right? Gatekeeper is also called as open policy agent. If you create one policy, every new resources, it has to abide by that policy. If it is not, it will be comes under policy violation. And then complaint summary, scan history, when the cluster got scanned over the time, so which day of the month, so the complete calendar you will get. And then historical vulnerability summary. So as the days goes on, right, cluster vulnerabilities number has to decrease. So when you see that, you will get that sort of insight. And then in the namespace level, right? So what are the namespaces you have, and what are the issues you have in that, right? Along with that, you have a logging mechanism as well, like each and everything, what is happening in our cluster, everything you'll get in the logs. So this is a starting page. So I'll just walk you through these options quickly, right? So what are the tools we are talking about? So gatekeeper, right? I was talking about specific thing called Kate's required labels. So what it means is, like when I'm trying to create a resource in Kubernetes, I'm telling like it required labels, right? When when I create a resource without label, it is warning me saying that okay, it requires match owner label, but I haven't provided that label. So that is why it fall under violation. So when I click on that violations, right, it will again detailedly show you like where what I'm trying to create and where I'm trying to create, which namespace, what kind of resource. So it will give you entire details. If you want to create your own constraint, you can do that. So by adding add more, right? You can create those stuff, right? So that is about gatekeeper. Next, I talked about kubesec. Kubesec is for, if you have an YAML file with you, you can directly upload your YAML file and then you can scan it. If not, when you are running your workloads already, then you can select your namespace. So where, which particular pod you wanted to scan, where it is sitting, right? So for now, if I select Falco, and then in that it will show me pods. So for example, I'll select this pod, and then I'll say run kubesec. It will do some sort of assessment. So based on what, these are the advices which we got right from the standard recommendations for every resource. So and that why it is giving this marks. So what the things it passed, what are the things it failed. You can it will give you a clear score. As soon as you see that, you will get an idea. Okay, something went wrong here. Why? Because like I'm missing something, right? So this kind of tool it is, right? So for everything you can, if you want to export this report, right, in form of JSON, you can click on this download report. The JSON file will be downloaded, right? Similarly, Kube Hunter. Kube Hunter, like we talked, right? So it will continue scans in our cluster, right? Whenever, so here we have multiple options. If you want to run audit in a form of cron job level, you can click on this run audit and you can select this, copy this command. It's just a Helm command and you can run. You can customize this cron job schedule and you can run it. Right? If you want to run only one time, right, you can click on that. It will give you a command. So as soon as you click on that, it will generate a command. You copy that command, execute in your cluster, and then you'll get see the result getting populated here. See, these are the latest result, right? So when I click on that, it will give you a detailed thing like what are the cluster vulnerabilities we have and where we have those kind of things, right? And also like from where we got, right? So Cube Hunter is scanning. Cube Hunter is a aquasec tool, right? So from there it is using that tool, and what is the vulnerability, what is the description, everything it will give you. So that is kind of about Cube Hunter, right? Next comes the Cube Bench. Cube Bench, like we already talked about, right? Like it will have a standard CS benchmarks and NIST benchmarks. It will just compare with your deployments. Like, are you following those rules? And right. So if you see the latest results, which is 6/5/2023, which is today, so it will give you these are the test results, like what are the conditions it is checking, whether it is passing or fail. If something is not following the standard practice, then it will give you warning, right? If it is then beginner stage. If it is completely violated, then it will say fail. So that kind of is easy to monitor things it will you will get from Kubebench, right? So again, here also you have the same option. When you want to run audit, right, you can select the environments. So where it is, for example, it's a if I have a AKS cluster, then I can have this command, right? So when I wanted to run daily, weekly, monthly, or if I want to run only one time, or if I want to customize that, what I can do, I will just copy the command, I'll change the cron job, right? So that much easy it is to run and the stuff, right? So then comes the Falco. Falco, like I said, like it will monitor each and every minute thing in your cluster. So you can ignore the minor things by filtering out here. So if you see priority levels, all it is fetching all the logs, but I don't want all these logs. I want only critical and error things. Then what I can do, I can filter out these logs, and then when I click on search, so previously it is giving notice also, now I'll not get notice, right? So when I click on that, so I'm getting only priority one, right? So if I have any something critical, I'll get that, right? So when I click on any of these particular event, so it will give more details, like whether the event is happening for the first time, where it is happening, which namespace it is happening, when it is started, which pod, which image is causing this, and what are the error message we have there, and it is occurring for the first time or it's occurring frequently. So those kind of details it will give you in a very depth manner, right? So yeah, that is about Falco. And for every report you got, right, you can filter based on the date, order by various ascending order, descending order, order by priority levels, and you can filter based on the namespaces. So you can do lot of stuff, a lot of stuff you can do with all those things. Finally, like the most wonderful part about this tool. So all these are things are like engineering work, but imagine you are a manager or some CXO. You wanted to quickly check about the reports, like what is happening with our cluster and the stuff. So you don't have much time to get into the install and do here step by step. So that is why we have this section called reports. So it will give you a detailed report. Like if I want to check vulnerability visualization, right? You can click on that, and based on the namespaces and all, like I mentioned, you have all the standard filters. So what are the vulnerabilities over the time? So this month, so these are the vulnerabilities we have. And similarly, if I wanted to export all these vulnerabilities, right? So I wanted to have a detailed analysis with the team. I just wanted to make a proper analysis. So what I can do, out of these 1041 vulnerabilities in my cluster, so I export them like by simply clicking on this download report. So it will give me this CSV sheet, so I can share it across with the team, and I can see what is happening. And if I want to have only namespace based on this thing, right? So I can filter and I can search those things, right? So if you see each and every report or every scanning which is happening with Trivi, right? So all these containers are getting scanned by Trivi. And the wonderful part is like when the Trivi scan your a container, it will also give you CV, right? So that you will be well aware that okay, so the my image is under this particular CVE, whether I got the fix for that CVE or still it exploitable if I want to upgrade. So it will be very much easy to track, right? So like that we have a lot of options, right? So what are the running vulnerabilities we have? So everything, it's just a very much beginner friendly. It's like very high level thing we have. Like if you want, you can have a more of customization on the stuff. So this is the wonderful tool which I talked about. With that, right? So I'm just wanted to thank my team, which are who are the uh, founders and then building blocks for this wonderful tool called Minesweeper. And then if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm gonna ask if anyone have questions. ¿Tiene alguna pregunta? No? We don't have. We can create alerts in the application, like a notification in Slack or notification in Microsoft Teams. Alerts.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
we can do that. Like it's a customization thing. It's a completely open source and we can do that customization. We can create the alerts also. We have done that.
Okay, thank you. Creo que no. When we create the application, we need the others application before. Falco, Kubernetes, or not?
Yeah, basically it is like this, right? So when you have the your cluster, Kubernetes cluster ready, that is the requirement. And then when you have the cluster ready, and then you need a Helm package manager. With that, whatever the tools and stuff we are doing, right, is just a installation within your cluster. So everything is just one single click away. So everything will generate Helm commands. When you use that command, yeah, the screens will get rebooted. So if I may walk you one more time. So here, right? So initially you may not see like all these options will be there, but in first time when you log in and add it to a cluster, you may not see these results, right? That time you need to install Falco in your cluster.
Okay.
So here is the command, right? I'll just copy the command. Wherever I execute kubectl commands, right? I'll just copy this command and paste there. So it will get my cluster added here.
Okay. Uh-huh. Sí, correct. Okay, thank you.
Sorry?
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Any? No more? We don't have any more questions. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I'll be sharing the slides with the team. I can walk with them, and you can reach out to me anytime if you need any assistance.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.